everyone. This is the Center for Global Justice. Welcome to our conference. Please subscribe to our channels and please remember to donate to this program. Thank you very much. And I will pass the microphone to Bob.
Okay, thank you. Just give me one moment. I wanted to welcome Arturo particularly because I go back to some of the early times in one of his specialties. Today, we're going to hear the contrast between the everyday life in the bubble we live in San Miguel and that of Sinaloa, where the cartel is ambient. It's part of the normal presence of people in their everyday lives, in the political, business sectors, and of course, in the law enforcement area as that can be accomplished. It's perception, with among the population, derives from this. In the outside world and in the media, there are efforts to say what's really going on, but not many writers can go as deeply as Arturo Santamaria Gomez, who has been published among his 25 books are those concerning the immigration in the United States of Mexicans, the cartels, and variety of other works, some personal interest, but mostly in the academic area as a professor of sociology at Universidad Autónoma de Sinaloa. And he's been an invited professor at Cal State and at the University of Buenos Aires. He has lived in Mazatlan 42 years, and he's going to give us a good glimpse as to what it's like out there across the Sinaloa. So
I should start.
See.
Okay. Well, nice to meet you, everybody. And well, the first thing I have to say is that Sinaloa is hottest than ever right now. As can you understand, because the myth of the Sinaloa narco traffic, of the Mexican narco, and probably of the international narco traffic has been captured. And so everyone is talking in our state, what is going on, what is going to happen with this. And not just because El Mayo was captured, but also because one politician that was the president of the University Autónoma of Sinaloa was killed the same day that El Mayo was captured. And if you follow a little bit the news in Sinaloa, you could understand why I'm getting together these facts, and also with another more particular facts that has happened in our cities. So the situation is hard right now in Sinaloa because could happen a war among the two main groups of the Sinaloa cartel, the Los Chapitos, the Joaquín Guzmán Loera Chapo children, and the group of El Mayo, because apparently one of the El Chapo's children betrayed El Mayo. We are not certain what happened in the last Thursday, if El Mayo was captured, if El Mayo se entregó, he went for himself with the American authorities, or if El Mayo was taken by the men of the Los Chapitos and took them to USA. So the information is confused. We don't know exactly what happened, but many journalists and many people that has studied widely the narcotraffic issues in Sinaloa doubt seriously, and I doubt that El Mayo was captured by the American officials, because although he was engañado, that he was fooled by the Chapitos, or in combination with the American authorities, because he was considered the most, how you say, the most experimental expert, the most, how you say, experimental. Well, he got a lot of experience in dealing with different groups, dealing with politicians, dealing with the police, and it's hard to believe that he was fooled, that he was engañado by any group, any kind of person. So we don't know what is going to happen in Mexico, but what we could see is a very possible war, not just in Sinaloa, because the Sinaloa cartel has influence in almost the whole Mexican territory, and has interest in many areas of the country. So we don't know what is going to happen exactly. So we are in the expectation what could happen. But also, it's well known that El Mayo had a lot of links and agreements with military, with police, with politicians, with entrepreneurs, with everyone. So he has many things to say if he wants to, if he thinks it's important to talk about his links. We don't know what is going to happen, but he has a lot of information, and not just about the Mexican territory, the Mexican narco-traffic business, but also the information that comes from different countries, because the Sinaloa cartel has different kind of businesses in at least 100 countries in the world. It's actually it's a transnational of the drugs, the most important transnational of drugs in the world. And so what we are confronting right now is a very big issue in the national, in the Mexican society, but also the American society, probably in other countries. So if you want to ask me about after this introduction of my talk, I'd be glad to talk with you. Or if you want to know more about how I think, based on information that we get together here in Sinaloa, how they work, how this cartel works in Mexico. So tell me, please. So who is in charge of this?
Hello, hello. Thank you very much, Arturo.
Okay,
So,
Lulu.
thank you very much. So I would pass this question to the people in La Quinta in San Miguel. Today I'm hosting from Mexico City, but if someone in La Quinta would like to ask something, please let us know. Miguel, please let us know if someone there would like to ask something.
Yes, I would like to ask something. I don't think everybody here knows who is the guy that was captured. I have an idea that they don't know who he is and how big his organization is. My question is, how about Mazatlan with all the gentrification and all the Americans that are living there? Are they in any danger? And if there's a war, where do you think it will be more dangerous, like Mexico City, Sinaloa? That's my question for him. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, this guy is a legend in the Mexican crime, in the history of Mexican crime. He is 76 years old, and he has never been captured by any authority in Mexico or USA. So that's interesting, and that's important because almost every narco trafficker has been in prison someday, and he was not in prison anytime. So he was un invicto. He was how you say, a narco trafficker that was clean on prison days. So, but not just that. The Sinaloa cartel, as I said, with the information of the DA, is the most important organization in the world in the drugs traffic. They are present in more than 100 countries in different ways. So selling drugs, buying drugs with laboratories, buying arms, investing, cleaning money, as storage, almacenando, storaging drugs in different countries. So they have different activities in more than 100 worlds in the 5 continents of the world, just over all the world. So it's a super powerful organization. So it's not a regular crime. It's a transnational crime. It's a incredible, super powerful organization. So, and it's also said that they have a structure very flexible. So, as El Mayo said one day in a very, very, how you say, relevant interview that a Mexican journalist did several years ago, he said, if I am killed, or if I am captured someday, nothing is going to happen in this business. Someone or a group of other men are going to take the, the, the this enterprise, this cartel, this business, and that's true. No, nothing is going to happen in the industry. Nothing is going to happen in the narco traffic with the imprisonment, with the El Mayo imprison. It's very important in terms of journalistic, mediatic issue, in terms of politics, in terms of the restructuration of the narco traffic in Mexico. But the industry is going on. The business is going on and is growing, going on. So it's important to understand that this business is so wide, is so deep in the societies, and is so flexible in the organization, so that it goes on. No? And yes, but if there is a war trying to keep the control of this transnational organization in Sinaloa, because Sinaloa is the center, is the birth, is the natural place of this organization. I wrote a book saying that Sinaloa, Culiacan especially, Culiacan is the capital of Sinaloa, that Sinaloa is a global city of crime. There is one author, well, several authors, but one woman from Netherlands, she's Argentinian Netherlands, or something like that. Is I forgot her name right now, but she talks about global cities. Then I took that concept, saying, well, when she talks about global cities, she's talking about New York, about London, Tokyo, analyzing the importance, the role that these cities have in financial and issues in the world. So Culiacan is like running the industry of drugs in the world. So Culiacan is a kind of global city of crime, because the importance of this organization. So it's very relevant what we are seeing right now in Mexico with this possible war inside this organization. So when we see a war, everyone is running a risk, of course, even Americans, of course, but normally the cartels try to avoid to hit Americans, because they know that these get many risks, that it's more complicated to do, and it's not necessary to harm them, to hit them, no. But if we are walking the street, there is one guy from one group, and the other want to kill them, in what hit him, how I say, what bullet hit it, could be harm. No, that's the risk. But normally they try to avoid anything with American citizens, no? Normally. But yeah, it could be a confrontation or a war on the narco industry in Mexico. But we don't know right now, because Another possibility is that the Chapitos, the another group confronting Del Mayo, the children of the Joaquin Guzman and Chapo, could, how you say, could resolve the conflict in terms of politics or in terms of buying the leaders of El Mayo, convincing them that they should work with them, that they could be defeated in one war, in inner war, an internal war. So it's better to join them. So we don't know yet what is going to happen, but what is in the game, what is playing is very big. It's a big business of thousands of millions of dollars. So it's not anything what is in the game.
Thank you, thank you. Please, the audience that is with us here in Zoom, if you would like to ask something, please raise your hand so we can see you. And the audience in Quinta Loreto, do you have any other question? Bob?
Yeah, thanks. Well, just following up a little on the first questioner, who was asking also about whether this would spread to other regions in Mexico. And the other part in terms of a war. And the other question I had was, given the magnitude of the cartel, in your area, is it possible for, say, someone to open up a legitimate business and not have somebody calling on them for something? You know, is normal commerce, how doable is normal commerce in Mazatlan, in Sinaloa?
Not just in Mazatlan, the whole country. So this industry is wide and complex. Let's see. Let's say they invest in every business that is possible, and even sometimes in the past they were members of bank. How you say, on the back in bank CEOs. They were even members of CEOs banks. No? Members of the cartels were CEOs of banks. Or they negotiated with, for example, with HSBC, because they invest hundreds of millions of dollars in Culiacan. And of course, the managers, the CEOs of that bank in Culiacan knew that that money came from that business, because they were a lot of millions of dollars in just some months. Well, and they laundry money in everything, even universities, schools, art, whatever, in construction industry, mining industry, agricultural industry, everywhere, because they need to launder money, because they make thousands of millions of dollars every year, and they have to laundry wherever it could be. So even they launder money in politics. They have politicians, their own politicians in different parties. So it's not a surprise that they They have hundreds of millions of dollars everywhere. Everywhere. Every city, every important city of Mexico. In whatever. I mean, thinking in any business and they will be there. Even can you imagine that they buy art, they have galleries, they have universities. They have universities. And they invest, they have schools. They whatever, soccer clubs, baseball clubs, boxers. They invest in everywhere. Or their esposas, their wives, for example, open a mall to sell European clothing or Colombian fashion or whatever. So we are talking of a dance of millions of millions of millions of millions of dollars that have to be laundered.
Is there any evidence that they own more politicians in one party than another?
It depends who has the power. Their ideology is money. So they don't have social causes. The ideologies make money. And then if one party, whatever, helps to that, so they go with them. If they lose power, they forget, they make them aside and they go with another party. It doesn't matter if they are conservative, if they are liberal, if they are right, or if they are right or left. They go with them. Who permits to make money? And they do. There is nobody is so pragmatic like them. They are more pragmatic than politicians.
Thank you, Arturo. Any other question from the audience in La Quinta?
If I can be heard, I don't know if my voice can be heard.
Yeah,
Can I hear?
I hear.
heard?
Yeah,
Yes, again. All right.
I do.
There are several things that come to mind. First of all, one of the issues about which I've read in some books is between the cartels as a business. I mean, it is a business. It just happens to be illegal business, international business, and the other is the question of information. And from what I've been reading, the most dangerous occupation in the world is to be a journalist in Mexico. Journalists killed right and left. The idea is to prevent information about what is really going on in the cartels from getting out. They don't want international exposure, and they'll do whatever they can to prevent it. And my question is, well, how widespread is this, and what kinds of investigation might be going on into the killing of journalists in Mexico?
That's true. To be a journalist in Mexico, not just because drugs, also because politics. Because many politics in Mexico are not separated of the drug industry. So not necessarily a journalist has to talk about the drug businesses to be killed or to be amazed. If they talk about sports or politics or art, and if the drug men have interest on them, they can kill them. And that has happened. Not necessarily they have to write about crime. No. If they talk about one issue that is uncomfortable for them, they could be killed. And even if they don't like a picture that was taken in one children party, they have killed people for that. So it's complicated. They have a lot of power because most of the times they control the police, the local police. They start their power from the bottom. No? So it's very normal they have the control. They are the bosses of the local police in many cities of Mexico, especially in Sinaloa, in the whole state of Sinaloa. They control the police, the local police. So one local chief could take the decision of kill someone for any stupid issue, for any stupid thing. No, so it's not necessarily a very important thing. No, but that has happened. No, in Sinaloa was killed Javier Valdez, probably one of the most famous journalists that used to write about crime, about the drug businesses. And so he thought that he was so important, but he was very famous, that was protected by fame or by international reputation. But nothing was enough to protect him. And not just him, another journalist. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to talk about this issue. We know many things that we don't write or talk. Many things. Of course, we are not suicidas. How I say suicidas? Lourdes, Lulu, how do you say suicide?
Suicidal?
How?
Suicidal.
Suicidal, no? But we risk many things. We are not suicidal. No? We know many things. We see many things. Because many times my neighbor could be a narco just next to my house in Sinaloa or Guerrero, Michoacan. In some states, they have thousands of ties, or they have a lot of informants. So, yeah, we see things that we don't know. For example, I don't give you names of politicians that just won positions at the last election. I can say. I shouldn't say. I have, how you say, I want to be alive. So many things, we don't talk about them because we are tolerant. No, because we have fear and we don't have enough power to say things and to get something out of them.
Thank you. We have a question from Norma, and she says, has there been discussion of possible actions that might be figured out to take to try to get around this power, besides needing to end the US government's allowance of this, as well as other such criminal states?
You know, a few months ago, I was talking with one very important woman in Sinaloa politics. And I said, this problem or this issue doesn't have a resolution. I don't see any kind of resolution in long or short period. I don't see. It's those kind of problems, those kind of issues that are part of the society. Probably I'm very pessimistic, but I don't see a solution because it's a cultural problem. It's a health problem. It's a economic problem. It's a political problem. So it has different aspects. So the demand of drugs is growing up in the world. So if you have a big population consuming drugs, millions of millions consuming drugs, so how can you resolve that problem when the market has created a big super industry so profitable that the business people is not gonna release it? For example, banks, they get a lot of money in their pockets, money that come from drugs. So they are not gonna stop that. Politicians need funding, and they want the power, and they are gonna receive the money, and they are gonna make business with them. So this is very complex. But the problem is that in the case of Mexico, Mexico is next to the largest market of drug consuming, that is USA. So that makes that the Mexican cartels are so important because they have next to them a super profitable market. And then, of course, they are going to Australia, they are going everywhere because now they control the borders with USA and with Guatemala, where the cocaine is coming, for example, from South America. Or they control the ports where the substances to make the fentanyl that come from China. So Mexico is in a very strategic position in the world because it's next to the largest market of drug consuming, and it has 2 oceans, where a lot of ports, where a lot of drugs can come. So with a lot of poverty too, with corruption. So it's very complex, very complex. And we understand more this when we live in the heart of the business, where this industry was birthed in Sinaloa. We have experience of 100 years watching very closely how this industry conducts.
Thank you. Any other question in the room?
I have a question en español, por favor, para el profesor.
Ah, sí, por favor.
He can answer in English. Yo voy a hablar en español. Quiero que me diga si la situación con las drogas continúa y el gobierno ve para el otro lado, porque el dinero que entra de las ventas de drogas a México y los migrantes que están trabajando en el norte es lo que sostiene la economía del país. ¿Es una verdad o estoy errada?
No, well, the money that the Mexican immigrants in USA send to Mexico is very important. Of course, very, very important. And they help a lot to the Mexican company, especially their families. They strong the inner market because the money that they send is especially for food, for housing, for health, those kind of things. They help a lot. It's very important what they do. But no, Mexico gets more money with foreign investment. For example, with international trade and with exportation of everything, food and manufacturing. So yes, the Mexican migrants are very important. But of course, and then I have to say that most of them, the immense majority of them, work honestly in USA. And some of them, yes, are related with the narco industry, some of them. But they are many, many millions of them, and some of them, they are related to that. But most, I know them, I've been part of that. They work honestly. So yes, and even increasingly, they are more important to Mexican society because they are also a very important market for Mexican exportation, especially food, music, cultural issues. Mexico export for them. They demand for what we call the nostalgic merchandises. And yes, well, they are very important. But in the case of the narco business, I try to see how this problem could be resolved. But I don't. When I study more and more, and I see more and more, I don't see any solution. I don't see any solution. And especially with the more mental problem, health problems in the societies, the poverty, the increasing of poverty. So, the corruption, I could say, is not the main problem. Corruption is part of it, but it's more important the social problems, cultural problems, the economic problems that society has. And so we're talking a very sad issue, a very important issue, and probably that is increasing more and more.
Thank you. Norma has another question.
Hi, everybody. Well, it's just the way I usually think about everything. If they establish the alternative social structure, that is the social structure by which everybody can feed and house and so forth, let people have music and science and studies of all kinds. The alternative social structure that lets everybody provide for everybody. This could possibly undermine the benefit of a drug economy, is what I'm thinking, and that seems to be, and that's everywhere, you know, it's not just Mexico, although, do you all feel that AMLO is helping to go in that direction? I feel that way. I get propagandized that way by my communist friends. That AMLO is moving in the direction of social care by everybody for everybody. And the question I guess I'm asking is whether that could be eventually able to take the power away from the drug cartels, if in fact they kill people that don't comply and that don't allow opposition, so that's not a good thing. Is there an alternative, do you think, communism has got to frighten the heck out of the drug cartels. You know, they know that this would take away from them the power that they have if it were able to be established. And of course, we're taught to hate it. We're in the United States from the cradle. We are frightened of communism. And the only reason, of course, is that our profiteers would have to stop feeding off our labor and benefit us all, which is the opposite of what drug money does.
You know, Norma, I think López Obrador, AMLO, he fought against poverty with some exit. Now, we know that he increased the minimum wages and with the social, how we say with the social helps, we call it, the money that she gave to the old people and the handicapped people helped to combat poverty. But I think his strategy of the security of the police strategy was a failure. He got the conclusion that violence is not defeated with more violence. That's like a philosophic principle or Christian principle. No? You don't fight violence with violence because what you get is more violence. So he came from that principle. But then he didn't combat with violence the violence. So, but the violence don't have principles. They don't have the philosophy of, okay, if you don't confront me with violence, we are not gonna use more violence. No, they use it. No. So I think it was a mistake not to confront them because they grew more, not confronting them. But probably I'm wrong. I don't know if AMLO, that he's a very skillful politician, understand having a lot of information that if he used violence against them, Mexico could have been exploded. And that was a possibility. Yes, that was a possibility. No. So what he did was more to permit them. I think he permits them to act. No? And they grew up. But at the same time, the violence is very, very big in Mexico, very important. But what could happen, we could have seen is a real war like Central America had, or Vietnam had, a kind of wars that, open wars. So it's difficult to answer. What I think that it was a mistake not to confront them. But that I'm not totally sure. Really, I'm not totally sure. Because finally the country grew up economically. Socially was relatively in peace. Relatively, because we had 200,000 people killed. Mainly from the drug cartels. That's a lot of people. And could be a paradox that I say, we're relatively socially in peace with 200,000 people killed. It's a contradiction, but probably could be, it's stupid to say, but could be worse. I don't know. It's difficult to answer this question. So we are going to happen. What is going to do the new president, Claudia Sheinbaum? Because I think she is going to act different. I think because she already named Omar Garcia Harfuch a police expert in confronting the drug cartels. So that tells us that he's thinking probably different. No? But we have to see. No? And also, AMLO didn't want this guy. No, because he was the support of Claudia to be the candidate for running the Mexico City. And AMLO didn't want it. So what Claudia Sheinbaum is doing is saying, well, okay, I'm gonna be the next the president, and I take the decisions. At least in security, seems that he's taking different decisions.
Thank you. Any other question in Quinta Loreto?
I have a mountain of questions, but one of the questions is specific to Mexico, and that is how, in our speaker's view, is Claudia going to operate independently, or is she going? And many people fear he's just going to try and carry on AMLO's policy. She's AMLO light. And that's a fear. I don't believe it, but it's a fear. The other thing has to do, the other question, is the relationship between the cartels in Mexico and the mafia in the United States. In my Italian family, we didn't use the word mafia. We called them the syndicates, the sindicatos in the U.S. And that is, and they are, now they're, the thing is, and I think you mentioned this, that the businesses of both the cartels and the mafia are highly diversified. They're invested in everything, and this is one of the, for example, one of the most popular beverages in the U.S. is Canada Dry, and that's owned by the mafia. There's a whole host of other examples you could use, but is there any parallels or connections between the organizations in the U.S. and the cartels in Mexico? And if so, what is the nature of this connection?
Well, the first thing is that, well, I have to say, I like a lot Claudio Sheinbaum. I have to say that. No. Why? Because he's not a traditional politician. She, you know, she's a scholar, fierce than anything. She's a scientist, physician, brilliant physician. But also she was a student leader in very important movements in Mexico, historic student movements in Mexico. And what we saw in Mexico City when she was the mayor, that she took different decisions, different to AMLO's decisions. For example, when the how you say the epidemic, the COVID, when COVID, she took different policies of health politics in Mexico City. For example, when AMLO didn't give importance using a mask, she used it. Even in some, and when the press conferences that the president held every day in Mexico City, every secretary didn't want to use the mask because the president didn't use it. And she was the only one using it. She was like kind of challenging that decision. She was the only one using the mask. So do you say mask? Well, the mask. So it seems something very secondary, but not. It was important because she was taking another decision, and not just in that. She was very efficient managing how to inyectar, the vaccine, how to use the vaccine, no? And the organization was very good. Even she was imitated in the other state when she ordered how to use the vaccine. And she takes decisions in data. She takes the decisions with a computer, with data, with a lot of information, like a scientist. And she says, because I've talking with people that is close to her, no. She said, okay, data, give me data, and tell me how was used that data, what are the results. So she's more like a scientist, taking decisions. And probably because I am a scholar, I how you say, I trust more in this kind of decisions than other kind of decisions. No, so I think politically she's learning very quickly how to deal with a charismatic leadership, because as AMLO is a traditional politician, he is a charismatic. He's un caudillo. No? So remember what Max Weber said about the charisma is a traditional style of politics. So it's more based on personal decisions than on rational decisions taken on a team, discussing with that has been discussed with different people. So she's more a team politician. She takes decisions consulting other people. And you see when she named the first state secretary, they are high people that with a very high scholar background, PhD with international trajectories. So she's taking different decisions. And for example, AMLO said, I trust 90% in loyalty and 10% in knowledge. And she is saying, no, I trust 90% in knowledge and 10% in loyalty. No, she didn't say anything, but how she's taking decisions, she thinks more in experience, in knowledge, in professionalism, than and that other things. So I trust her. I trust her. So based on this background. So yes, there are some books in Mexico that have written about the narco organizations in USA, and the structures are different, are more decentralized in USA. In Mexico are more, how you say, personal or family directed. No, it's how you say, the structure of the narco traffic is different in USA than in Mexico. So what these experts said, especially Jesus Esquivel, one Mexican journalist in Washington, D.C., he said that it's so, how is it, spread out, the drug traffic in USA in different small groups, like different pandillas, in different gangs, especially at the border, that there are not leaders so big like Mexico. The structures are more flexible and more, how you say, decentralized, and in the scale is many. It's smaller, but they are the main distributors, how you say, of drugs. The gangs. Yeah, they sell the drugs in USA. No, and of course they are the how it say, in Sinaloa, for example, one cell controls a big region of the business. But what I understand in USA is different. There are thousands of sellers, the small sellers of drugs. But and they buy from Mexican cartels or Colombian cartels, especially Mexican cartels. But so but they have, of course, a very narrow relation, very close relation, of course. And we know that DAAs many times tolerate this, depending on the political situation. So DAA negotiate with the narco leaders. Of course, no? They take political decisions also, no? Not just justice or police decisions, no, political decisions also. No? As for example, right now they are negotiating with Ovidio Guzman, the Chapo's son, that is in USA. They are negotiating what he says, what he sells, and what DAs or the Justice Department USA negotiates with him. No? So they negotiate.
Thank you. Norma has another question.
Yeah, hi, question. I just want to bring in that the US has been fighting communism for 100 years. The US started in 1921 and has been working against it everywhere. It has been murdering people throughout the world and maintaining some kind of control when possible. In Afghanistan, you know, they had a government that was supported by the Soviet Union, where women then were able to go to school and have outside jobs and not have to cover up and so forth. And this, the United States was able to access the Mujahideen because they called for the return of their women. And so that was a uniting call for this army of people against the USSR-supported government in Afghanistan, creating the misery and horror. The Russian mothers of the soldiers that were sent to Afghanistan were pleading, please don't send my son. Please don't send my son, because they were dying in such numbers. So that was very influential, and I don't blame them a bit. I mean, I would go crazy if my family were involved in having to go kill people that they didn't even know. The idea of the lack of control, 100 years of anti-communist warring, but still it's rising. And the example is the AMLO installations of protective measures for their people, and increasing those and letting the people know that those rights and opportunities belong to them, which have been held back from them as though they're not worth it for so long. You know, I know that you all can explain all of those, but when those rise like that, that is the effort growing to undermine the control of these beneficiaries of governmental control throughout the world, that is amplified by the United States.
Well, AMLO is not a communist. No.
I'm not meaning to say he is. I'm saying that the money he's given to various groups, for example, you just said it all.
Yeah, so he's a reformist in terms of social issues, and he thinks that the government has to have a more important role in confronting poverty and promoting economy and education, whatever. So he is more a social reformer in the tradition of the Mexican Revolution. For that reason, many critics said that he was actually a PRI member, pre-member. No, how you say, the latest, the last of the PRI members out of the PRI. Of course, he's a reformist, and Claudia is something similar, but with a different way of doing politics, and with more solid intellectual formation, and with even with I could say, more technical way of doing things, or watching things. So in Morena, there are some former communists. They don't have an important role in this party, in this government. No? If you see the government of AMLO, and if you see the members of the Claudia government, anyone come from any left organization, any. So they are what in USA could be named liberals, more than that. Probably something like, or some of them could be like this guy from, how I say this guy, this old politician from the Democratic Party, a socialist. What's the name?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie. Yeah, some could be like Bernie, but many of them can be like Obama. So they are not leftists in the communist sense, or the Marxist sense, or the socialism Marxist, and then the Marxismo Socialista, Marxism Socialism. No? It's another version of this. No? And even, for example, Claudia is very worried about the free trade. She wants to strengthen the free trade with USA. No, she's not against it. She wants how to negotiate a better free trade for Mexico with US and Canada. She doesn't want to confront it. But also she has been critic on Trump, for example. No, even more than AMLO. AMLO was very, very careful with Trump. But Claudia is not so careful. She has been more direct, criticizing him. No? So what we see is more, she's like more, in some terms, more nationalistic, and AMLO in other terms, not. But she believes in free education for public education for everyone, free and public education for everyone, more in the social democrat tradition of Europe, I think. No, example, no. Free health and public health for everyone. She believes in social programs for women. And so what I see that I see them, the Morena is more closer to the social democrats government of Europe than communists or governments like Cuba or the Soviet Union when they exist. No, someone could say it's a light left, probably could be that. No, but yes, I think even I could say that AMLO don't like communists. No, I can say that in the Morena when he didn't want many, well, just one guy that was member of the Communist Party is member of the government, Pablo Gomez. No? But Pablo Gomez has changed a lot, I could say. No? But he was the only member of the Communist Party in Morena government.
Thank you. I would like to ask you something. I always think in many places in Europe where people can go to a special store that sells different kinds of drugs. So the customer goes to that store, he buys the drugs, and those stores also have small rooms where the client can go in and use his drugs there in a safety place. So in those countries in Europe, you don't have people killed for using and consuming drugs. And that's my question all the time when I think about Mexico. If there's a big business that produces and sells drugs, if in the future it would be possible that we have a change of mind and we have rules, we have different laws, so there are spaces in which people can go and buy their drugs. It's a place where they are going to buy them, they are going to pay a tax, and they are going to use them in a safe space. So you don't have people killed in my country, and then you don't have, maybe you have people coming from other places to buy different kinds of drugs. I don't know if it's possible to think about that, because for me, the issue of the drugs in the world is a health issue. It's a healthy issue. It's not a security issue. It's not.
I agree.
It's not. It's not a war issue, as the U.S. tries to put it all the time. It's a health issue that us as a society have to think of this health problem.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lulu. But see, when in Mexico was discussed the problem of the issue of legalization, the right wing, the Catholic Church, and most of the big business people, or many intellectuals, confront that possibility. So in Mexico, the Morena put on the table the discussion of legalizing just marijuana, no more than marijuana, no. Not just using for medical terms, but also for ludic. Do you say ludic in English? For ludic issues. So that proposition was accepted, just very limited for medical terms, just very limited, no? And but when the discussion was, okay, we should make a law for ludic terms, that wasn't possible, you know. every church, Christian churches, Catholic, especially Catholic churches, that is very powerful in Mexico. No, confront them in middle of this radical and say, no, impossible, no, impossible that. So I don't see in the near future how Mexico could legislate, how could run laws to legalize, not just I mean not cocaine or drugs, no, just ludic marijuana. Just ludic marijuana has been done. That just for medical terms, that was a how you say jump, big step even, no, for the Mexican context, but no, I don't see that future. No, I don't see that. I think could be the best if we see the European experience, even the Uruguayan experience where marijuana was legalized, and with controls, but more widely than in Mexico. But in Mexico it doesn't happen, you know? And I don't see how it could happen. I don't see how.
Thank you. Any other questions in La Quinta or here in Zoom?
I have one. I'm sorry, I couldn't get the the little yellow hand up. So Trump and some of the radical fringe Republicans who are becoming less and less fringe are talking about, in the political season, talking about invading Mexico over the issue of narcotics. You know, we know better. We know that corporate investments are feeding the market that buys these by impoverishing communities, but obviously they don't. And I guess my question is to Arturo, not only how realistic this political threat would be, but whether the increase in covert operations that might be tried as an alternative by a right-wing U.S. government what sort of effect might that have in a period where Claudia is the president and narcos are strong?
Well, the covering operations have exist since several years ago. Even the major capture, it seems that it was a covert action, no, because the Mexican government didn't know anything about this. Probably if the part of the Sinaloa cartel was part of this, it was how is it, complice, was part of this agreement. It was directly with the Department of Justice of USA and the Sinaloa cartel Guzman area, no, for a covert action. It seems that it was a covert action. So I don't think Claudia Sheinbaum could accept this, I think. But it doesn't mean that they are not going to continue. I think the USA is probably going to do that. And yeah, what I'm worried about what the Republicans are saying about how to fight back the problem of drugs in Mexico, because they are, of course, pressuring, they are making pressure. But I don't know if they se atrevan, how to say that, if they have the courage to invade Mexico. I think it's an adventure, no? Yeah, I don't see how it could be happening. But they are using that as a political propaganda, no? As a campaign propaganda. But this guy,
I guess when I was talking about covert, also I was including military covert. You know, your mercenaries operations like that.
I don't think Claudia could accept this. I don't think so. You know, the first reaction of her to Trump's opinion about Mexico was strong, was very nationalistic. Yeah, AMLO was not like that. She was more strong. She was stronger. It's hard to say what could happen. But what I see that is she's more decided not to accept these kind of things, I think.
Thank you, Arturo.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you for your participation, and we will see you next Monday.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
very
you
much.
for your questions and your interest, your time. Thank you, especially Bob, for your invitation.
Well, you
Thank
might
you.
want to promote your publisher and your publications, your books. Tell people how they could get them.
Well, in libraries, just could in probably in Guanajuato, I don't know where. There are just two books that were published by Grijalbo. Las Jefas del Narco, She, the Bosses of the Narco, or Carnival, Queens and Drugs. That's another book. The other ones are just like very local editions. So they are very hard to get. But the other ones probably are sold out. But there is another one that you could get in Amazon, a new one. The newest is Narco Fashion and Youth in Mexico. That just came 2 weeks ago in Amazon. In Kindle or paper.
Okay. So it's más cultura, más cultural.
No, well, you see how the narco get legitimation, support of youth through culture, through fashion. How they,
Music.
Yeah, music and clothing. And, you know, for example, right now, are selling a lot of t-shirts of what Del Mayo was wearing when he was captured. Immediately through their nets, were saying, do you want one t-shirt or polo t-shirt that Del Mayo was wearing when he was captured? And hundreds of them are selling. That's sad. That's true. Okay.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arturo. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Lulu. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Bob.